Welcome to my presentation on the Nazis' euthanasia program. It is important to distinguish that the program is different to how societies in today's world view this contentious topic. During the period, Hitler and the Nazis would use this program to experiment with murder techniques before targeting Jews in Operation Reinhard. In a letter written by Hitler dated 1 September 1939, Hitler states, Reichsleiter Buller and Dr. Brandt, MD, are charged with the responsibility of enlarging the authority of certain positions to be designated by name in such a manner that persons who, according to human judgment, are incurable and can, upon a most careful diagnosis of their condition of sickness, be accorded a mercy death. It was this authorization letter that allowed the Nazis' euthanasia program to commence and work towards achieving racial purity. This program would take the lives of between 200,000 and 300,000 people. Throughout the next 5 minutes, you will be given insight into the implementation of the euthanasia program, Action T4, and its linkage to Operation Reinhard. The road to euthanasia began with these two men, Alfred Hoche and Karl Binding, in their book titled Authorization for the Destruction of Life Unworthy of Life in 1920. The experiences of the writers from a legal and medical field would argue whether the vigorous continued preservation of such lives as evidence of the inviolability of life deserves preference, or whether permitting their termination to the relief of everyone involved would seem the lesser evil. The Nazis would use this as they began their road to the euthanasia. The first step occurred in July 14, 1933, with the proclamation of the Law for the Prevention of the Genetically Diseased Offspring, which led to the sterilization of German citizens around the country from reproducing children with genetic disorders. The practice of sterilization continued in Germany through the 30s. The significance of this program demonstrates that medical professionals would have to be reporting any newborns that had deformities or were disabled. This would later be used upon the commencement of the Second World War, where euthanasia was first introduced, with its first victims being children. Requests for mercy killings were sent directly to the Chancellery of the Führer, so they didn't have to go directly through Parliament. Karl Brandt was Hitler's personal physician, and he was put in charge of performing a mercy killing of baby Noah, who had been born blind and had body issues. His parents had sent a request of mercy killing to Hitler, which had been approved and was performed by Brandt. Soon after this was actioned, Hitler had authorized Brandt to have the power to establish a set of experts which would determine whether citizens had met the requirements for euthanasia on children. As the war progressed, methods of killings progressed. These had been implemented through the methods of starvation and lethal medication. As the war progressed, it would eventually lead to the use of gas chambers, which saw the death of up to 6,000 children. With the commencement of the war in Europe, Hitler used wartime measures to implement the euthanasia program with adults. Burley, in 1997, argues that it was conceived as an economy measure to create space for the wounded. This process was given the code Tiergartenstraße 4, or Action 4. The goal of the agency was organizing the registration, selection, transfer, and murder of adult patients that had been identified as having a disability or mental illness. The initial group of people targeted were up to 70,000. As the war progressed, growing numbers in mercy killings occurred. The Nazis needed to implement quicker methods to kill identified individuals. This is where gas chambers come in. Identified people would eventually grow, and this would then be linked to Operation Reinhard. Operation Reinhard was the code name of the intention to exterminate Poland's Jews in German-occupied Poland. The significant relation between the euthanasia program performed through Action T4 and Operation Reinhard were the methods of killing. I essentially, throughout my research, have discovered that the methods of killing were directly linked to the death camps that would later be used to exterminate Jews throughout the Holocaust. The rise from deaths occurring from starvation and lethal injection to eventually gas chambers would have a direct significance upon the destruction of Jews led by Hitler and the Nazis in World War II.